Hey everyone, this is Rachel and I'm here for another process video. Now, I'm going to be doing a sketch from Laura Whitaker from the website Stuck Sketches. I saw Christy Harriman do it, so this is actually not part of our Lift and Sketch series, but it was funny because I had chosen it as a possibility to do as part of this, and then she went ahead and did it, and I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and do it too. So I'm going to be working changing it up a little bit. I'm not going to be working with pattern paper. I'm going to be working with Project Life cards instead. I won a little prize pack from Christina Profit, and in it was included a bunch of Project Life cards, and I don't do Project Life, so I always like to find another way to use them, because they always end up in your stash somehow, magically. It's like washi tape for me. Project Life cards and washi tape. I don't buy them, but they end up in my stash anyways. So what I've done is I've pulled some of the cards that have green, blue, and browny gray. And I also pulled these epoxy hearts from Illustrated Faith. They were a deal on Peachy Cheap, so I got a bunch of them. Some flare, some wood veneer, these Creekside plus signs from One Canoe 2. I only bought these from this line. I didn't buy anything else. I just thought these were really cute, but I didn't want to buy any of the paper because I still have a whole bunch of their first collection, Hazelwood, and I'm not outdoorsy, so I didn't see a reason to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get you put on fast forward. We'll get started and see what happens. Okay, so I have already pre-gessoed this paper with some clear gesso. That is my preferred type of gesso as opposed to the white, because I always find that it is not the exact same white as my paper and it drives me crazy. So I'm going to be using this stencil from Kezi Art, and I'm going to be using some Ranger texture paste, and I'm coloring it with some Distress inks in Mermaid Lagoon, Twisted Citron, and then I'm also going to use the color Sapphire, Chip Sapphire, but not as part of the texture paste. Now, I will be completely honest, almost none of this is visible once I'm done with my layout. But I had fun playing with it, so there you go. That little journal you see is just a Jane Davenport journal I picked up at Michael's when they were 50% off. And basically all I'm doing is wiping off what's left over of my any mixed media I have. I'm just shoving it in here, and at some point I will probably make something with it. I did do a first page just to see how it stood up to the wetness, but the rest of it is just stuff I've dumped on there. Now, with the Chip Sapphire, I am doing the packaging technique. You do see more of this, but the majority of the mixed media, you really don't see it all. And I'm okay with that because the sketch, you really only see pops of the mixed media from behind the layers of paper. So I'm going ahead and getting some of that packaging done down at the bottom. And once I get that, I'm going to add a little bit of the Twisted Citron as well. And now I'm just going to put it aside to dry. And I'm going to work with this 4x4 photo, which obviously there are two photos in the sketch. I'm going to be working with one. And I was really interested in using that one card that said, "You have my whole heart for my whole life." And because of the subject matter of this layout, I thought that one worked really, really well. So I don't know if you can tell what on earth they're standing next to, but it is a giant old anchor from a ship. We were at Mystic Seaport, which has a whole bunch of old ships and stuff, and they had this anchor, and I just took this photo of my housemate and her son. And I should probably wait and get into this and explain what I'm doing here. So basically all I'm doing is I'm taking these Project Life cards and I am layering them behind my photo. And I'm trying to be careful to where I don't have like two blues or two greens or two browns together. And then I pull that one card in that has the wood grain in it because I thought that was a fabulous way to pull out the wood grain from the anchor in the photo. And then the blues in the sky and the water, and then the green from the grass around the edge. That's why and then the wood tones of that grayish and gray, the grays and gray browns. So that's why I went with this color scheme. I thought it really pulled out the colors from the photo. So once I have my main paper layer done, I'm going to grab my Heidi Swapp Color Shine in Navy, and I'm going to do some misting around the same areas where I did my mixed media, and then I am going to add from Shimmers some Jenny B Blue. Now, I kind of had hoped my paper was drier than it actually was, but where it wasn't dry is actually getting covered up by the paper, so no big deal. So while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and put together the little part of the sketch that is the layered pieces down at the bottom. I'm going to use some of the same Project Life cards for my center, and then a couple of the other cards that I had pulled out to use. Now, once again, I am going to try to see that I've got no blues together, no greens together, and none of the patterns fight with each other. And I know I'm going to trim off the bottom portion of that, so I'm just trying to see what I see and where it will end up. So I'm also at the same time pulling a little bit of embellishment, more the stuff that is going to be part of the paper layers as opposed to stuff that will be of a different texture. So I'm pretty happy with the way that is looking, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that together, although I think I need it to go longer horizontally. So I'm going to add that other card down there, and then I decide I'm going to add that blue one as well, but because I already cut that one in half, I need to have something go down on that lower right hand side because it isn't long enough to where I'm going to trim it. I try a couple of cards, but I finally decide on this white one with brown dashed circles. That polka dot is too big, but this one is perfect. But another reason I was cutting down the cards is to cut down on the bulk of how thick it is. Once I get that, as I said, the white one with the brown circles, it works perfectly, just getting it all lined up. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim it to where I think it will look good. I do end up having to glue a couple of the top layers on because I ended up cutting off a little bit too much of the glue. But once I get it to where I want it, I'm very happy with it. So I'm trying to be very careful in trimming this up so I get it all straight across rather than having something buckle or tear or anything like that. And as I said, I did have to glue a couple of the top layers back down because I cut the glue off. Once I get this done, I am ready to get it all laid down on my paper, and after this, all I'm going to do is do a little bit of embellishing, and the layout is pretty much done. Now, it did buckle quite a bit with this particular one because I did so much mixed media, but I usually find if I put it under my mat and then I put my laptop on top for a second, it works perfectly to flatten it out. So I let it sit for a little bit, and I came back, and it's fine, and it is dry, and we are happy and good to go. I'm going to put a lot of glue on this because of the gesso and the mixed media, and I'm also going to mix it up between my ATG and then my Scotch Tacky Glue, which used to be called Scotch Quick Dry Adhesive, that has a fine line cap on the bottle, and I got those on Amazon. Once I finish my main photo part, I'm going to move down and do the exact same thing for my lower part. Now, I had considered as part of the original sketch having it about a ½ inch or a ¼ inch off the bottom, but I really didn't like the way that looked, so I went ahead and just put it along the bottom edge of my paper. I had pulled this flare as part of just random things I pulled from my stash that I thought might work with this. It has a wood grain pattern to it, which also brings the wood grain from the Project Life card and also the wood grain from the anchor. And now I'm going to go a little old school and pull out some brads. These are from my mind's eye, but I don't remember what they're from. They're just ridiculously old in my stash. And I'm going to put those in my 3 embellishment clustery areas, although I'm not going super embellishment heavy because I did do quite a bit of mixed media and with all of those layered cards. I do have that sword die cut, and that's from a very old Scraptastic kit. And I've got that file tab from, I believe that's an Ellie Studio. So those 3 brads are in kind of a limey color, a navy blue, and then I'm going to pull a third one, and that's in a light gray. And then I pull out these Bella Boulevard hearts in pickle, and I believe the other one is called maybe something like ice blue. There's 2 tones of blue in it. And I'm just going to place those once again in my 3 embellishment clustery areas. After that, I am pretty much done with my embellishing. I'm going to go ahead and do my journaling, and so I will continue talking about what I was referring to before about what this story is. This isn't, as I mentioned, this was taken at Mystic Seaport, but I didn't include this as part of, hey, we visited Mystic Seaport layout that I made a while back. I looked at this photo afterwards, and I just decided it's kind of symbolic as an anchor and a mother and a son, and with everything my nephew has gone through and how his mom has always been there for him. And so I wanted to do this layout less of a literal, hey, look, we're standing in front of an anchor, and instead do it more symbolically that she is his anchor. And so that's what I actually end up calling this layout. It's called Anchor. Originally I was going to call it Anchored, but I didn't like the way it looked on the page, and I thought the word anchor works just as well as the word anchored. I'm going to be using these thickers. They are from an old Amy Tangerine line, and they are called Alex with a Y. So as I see where you see the R hit, it's like, oof, you know, I don't like how the ED hangs off so far. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down, and once that is done, my layout is complete. So I do grab my quick dry adhesive once again and glue all of those down. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you have any comments, please be sure to leave one below. If you could flip me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching, and bye!